Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. Iranians apprehended at the southern border. U.S. Customs and Border say they have already detained 4 this month. The House of Representatives still without a speaker, but many are now throwing their support behind Jim Jordan of Ohio. Is your city driver friendly? We'll find out in a new study that ranks 100 U.S. cities from best to worst for what's like on the roads. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it apprehended a 4th Iranian special interest alien since the beginning of the month. Fox News reports the latest apprehension happened yesterday in Eagle Pass, Texas. The 4 Iranians are considered special interest because they are from countries the U.S. says promote terrorism or pose potential national security threats. Migrants with this designation are subjected to stricter vetting and questioning after being apprehended. Last week, Border Patrol agents detained 2 Lebanese nationals in Eagle Pass, who were also considered special interest aliens. Agents have apprehended 19 Iranians and 17 Syrians since Monday in the separate Rio Grande Valley sector. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis welcomed Americans back after they were stranded in Israel for 8 days. Sunday's charter flight carried over 270 people, including 91 children.
First big plane load, 270 people here. I think if you were watching, you saw a lot of families with young kids. So a lot of these people were in a real pinch. They had no help. They were not able to get out of Israel. And the state of Florida stepped up and answered the call.
Florida partnered with search and rescue nonprofit group Project Dynamo to send a plane to Israel. This occurred as major airlines canceled the flights in and out of Tel Aviv after the Hamas terrorist attacks. Governor DeSantis says he expects more flights to bring Americans back home will be sent out in the coming days. The U.S. State Department estimates that over 20,000 Americans are currently in Israel and Gaza. An Iranian official criticizing the U.S. over the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The U.S. steps up its firepower in the Middle East amid fears that the conflict could expand in the region. Here's a look at the sort of rhetoric in Iran's response.
Sending a military fleet to the region's waters has no meaning other than unilaterally supporting the oppressor against the oppressed.
He said the American government should be held accountable for what he called the, quote, crimes of Israel. The newest U.S. aircraft carrier is already in the eastern Mediterranean, and the second one is expected to join the vessel in the coming days. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Sunday the ships are not to provoke, but to deter. Some are concerned the U.S. military is stretching thin. Here's what President Biden responded.
We're the United States of America, for God's sake. The most powerful nation in the history, not in the world, in the history of the world. The history of the world. We can take care of both of these and still maintain our overall international defense.
Biden told CBS 60 Minutes that he was confident ongoing military and financial support would continue for both countries. Republicans working to find the next Speaker of the House. Former Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he will do everything to help Congressman Jim Jordan take over the role. Here's McCarthy.
I think Jim Jordan can get there. I'm one who understands how difficult it is. I did walk in with more support during this time, but I believe at the end of the day, Jim can get there, and I'm doing everything I can to help him be able to become Speaker.
Congressman Steve Scalise initially gained more support in the race for Speaker last week. However, he later dropped out. Former President Trump endorsed Jordan when he was running against Scalise. The Israel-Hamas war and a looming government shutdown are putting pressure on House Republicans to elect a new Speaker. Congressman Jim Jordan was able to flip some of the holdout members of the Republican Party as he runs for House Speaker. He said he would proceed with a vote on the full House tomorrow afternoon. A new gag order for former President Trump in the federal election case. Judge Tanya Chutkan said Trump, quote, does not have the right to say and do exactly what he pleases. Judge Tanya Chutkan sided with the Department of Justice in a limited order that restricts former President Trump from making public statements that attack witnesses, prosecutors, or court staff. The order came after a 2-hour hearing in which the DOJ vigorously argued that Trump is unfairly influencing the jury pool with posts he makes on social media. She did not block Trump from making comments about Washington, D.C. or criticism of the government, including the Biden administration and the DOJ. She said she would consider sanctions if Trump violated the order. She also refused to delay the March 4th trial date until after the election. UC Berkeley and NASA teams up with a development company for a new research facility on NASA property. Leaders say this is the right time to unveil their plans. NTD's David Lam reports.
NASA officials, researchers, and UC Berkeley students hope the proposed $2 billion Berkeley Space Center will move the aerospace industry ahead by combining talent.
It's very, very exciting. It enables a lot of exciting things for students and kind of NASA employees alike. So the first thing is we're going to get a lot of world-class facilities to do a lot of innovation, but I think even the bigger thing, it's going to bring a lot of different groups together. So you're going to have NASA, UC Berkeley, and all these commercial partners together all at once.
The new campus aims to have about 1.4 million square feet for private companies, student and faculty housing, and retail space on 36 acres within the NASA Research Park at the agency's Ames Research Center in Silicon Valley. The center director says the current space is primarily unused buildings, and the new research hub will be built on NASA property in Mountain View.
So one of the key differences is going to be the proximity of the university's campus here with us. They're basically on our site, right next door to us on our property. And so as such, the accessibility of the students, the faculty, with our researchers, even in some cases potentially sharing use of facilities.
This is a prime location and prime time for this public university.
Governor Gavin Newsom, Congresswomen Anna Eshoo, and Zoe Lofgren also supported the project. One student told NTD he's excited about the open green space as well as dormitories.
I feel like there's infinite potential for space medicine because, like, if you're able to do things on Earth, you can do things like in space. Because the only difference is that it's just a different environment. And like with the onset of like microgravity and like the different variables of like different planets' gravity, there's so much potential about finding out like what's the unknown and like figuring out like these new discoveries. So there's infinite potential, and I'm just very excited about literally anything in like space health and space medicine.
It's been 20 years in the making. NASA, UC Berkeley, and SKS partners teamed up for this project, hoping to have the first building up in 3 years and the building of the campus to follow. In Mountain View, California, David Lam, NTD News.
Let's take a look at a new study ranking 100 U.S. cities from best to worst on driver friendliness. Did your city make it on the top? NTD's Jason Blair brings us the full report.
From traffic to parking and gas costs, a new study uses 30 metrics to determine which U.S. cities are the most friendly to car owners. I'm here in San Francisco, which did make the list, but did it end up at the top or the bottom? Let's take a look. The top performing cities include Corpus Christi, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, Boise, Idaho, Plano, Texas, and Scottsdale, Arizona. And the worst include Los Angeles, California, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Michigan, San Francisco, California, and Oakland, California. Corpus Christi particularly performed well, boasting low gas prices and parking costs, minimal traffic congestion, and a low accident rate. Oakland made the bottom mainly due to high maintenance costs, a high car theft rate, and high gas and parking costs. The study was done by Wallet Hub, and the criteria was in 4 categories, which are cost of ownership and maintenance, traffic and infrastructure, safety, and access to vehicles and maintenance. As far as states, Texas hosts 7 of the top 20 ranked cities, the most of any state. California hosts 8 of the bottom-ranked cities, also the most of any state. Reporting in San Francisco, California, Jason Blair, NTD News.
A coalition of menstrual product brands is changing the game. Discover how they're putting an end to tampon tax in 21 states. NTD's Stephanie Sikal reports.
Are you tired of paying sales tax on essential period products? A coalition of menstrual product brands is fighting back with tampon tax back campaign. A coalition of menstrual product brands led by August, Cora, Lola, Rail, The Honey Pot, Here We Flow, Salt, and Diva has launched a tampon tax back campaign. The goal is to raise awareness about the classification of these products as taxable luxury items in 21 U.S. states, and ultimately push the state legislators to eliminate the tampon tax. It also addresses the pink tax, which results in higher prices for women-targeted products. Consumers can claim state sales tax refunds on menstrual products starting from October 11 by visiting the coalition's website, providing receipts and receiving refunds through Venmo or PayPal. CVS has also eliminated the pink tax on its branded menstrual and feminine care products in eligible states. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News, Los Angeles.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. 5 new sports now added to the 2028 Olympics, some making their debut while others making a return. Flag football in the United Kingdom. An NFL team introduced the kids to the game. Natural wine, some say the drink brings winemaking back to the basics, while critics question the higher prices. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. The Olympics embracing a sporting revolution, welcoming 5 exciting new events to the world stage. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
We're here at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles where the 2020 Olympics will be held. 5 sports have been added to the Olympic program after being approved by the International Olympic Committee's Executive Board.
Flag football, cricket, baseball, softball, lacrosse, and squash have received approval for inclusion in the 2028 Summer Olympics Monday. The list of sports successfully passed its last stage of approval during a meeting in Mumbai, India, involving the entire Olympic body's membership. Squash and flag football will make their Olympic debut, while cricket and lacrosse make a return after earlier appearances. Baseball and softball have been in and out of recent Olympics. However, none of these sports are guaranteed a permanent spot in the Olympics beyond 2028. Other additions like skateboarding, surfing, and sport climbing have secured permanent places on the summer program. In addition to the 5 new sports, 2 others not originally on the IOC's agenda, weightlifting and modern pentathlon, will also be a part of the 2028 Olympic lineup. The proposal had been put forward by Los Angeles officials just 1 week prior and received a recommendation from the IOC Executive Board on the preceding Friday.
The Los Angeles Olympics will be held Friday, July 14th, 2028 through Sunday, July 30th, 2028. Christina Corona, NTD News, Los Angeles.
The NFL bringing flag football to the United Kingdom. A youth training camp introduced the kids to the game. Here's NTD's Carlos Reyes with more.
The NFL's Tennessee Titans brought flag football to British kids at a Community Flag Day youth training camp. Last Friday, the team introduced the kids to the sport the same day the International Olympic Committee Executive Board proposed including it at the Los Angeles 2028 Olympics. The Titans also trained in Watford outside London as they prepared to face the Baltimore Ravens at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Earlier, the IOC recommended including flag football and 4 other sports, cricket, lacrosse, squash, and baseball/softball to the 2028 docket. While all 5 new sports inclusion is only for one edition of the games, they are banking on the boost provided by Olympic participation to spur growth, as they look to remain an attractive Olympic product going into the next 4-year cycle. Flag football is a non-contact version of American football in which players wear flags that opponents must remove to, quote, tackle them. It's growing in popularity worldwide due to its safety, accessibility, and adaptability for people of all ages and skill levels. Many countries have organized leagues and tournaments, and the sport is being introduced in schools and communities, contributing to its global expansion. Carlos Reyes, NTD News.
More new laws for California. Over the weekend, Governor Newsom reviewed the remaining bills on his desk. Here's a look at some laws related to crime and people's rights.
Of the many bills Governor Gavin Newsom signed this year, one is Senate Bill 519. The new law expands the board overseeing prison and jail operations and now allows public access to records related to inmate deaths in these facilities. It states that records made available must represent what is presented for review to a district attorney, including investigative reports, interview transcripts and recordings, autopsy reports, and video and photographic evidence. The new law will take effect July 1st, 2024. Another is Senate Bill 244, also known as the Right to Repair Act. It expands access to materials and information needed to fix electronics and appliances. This includes items such as phone screens and batteries. The new law takes effect July 2024 and makes California the fourth state to adopt such a law. And Assembly Bill 641 is trying to tackle the growing number of catalytic converter thefts. It takes effect January 1st and will require anyone in possession of 9 or more catalytic converters to be a licensed automobile dismantler. Owning more than 9 catalytic converters carries a misdemeanor fine of $250 for the first offense, which doubles for the second and third offenses. October 14th was the last day for Governor Gavin Newsom to review bills sent to his desk this year, and lawmakers will reconvene in January.
Natural wine. It's produced with a minimal chemical intervention and is growing increasingly popular in the States. But critics say the lack of defined standards and certification means consumers don't know what they're getting when they uncork a bottle.
It's harvest time in California. Pickers are plucking grapes from the vines as quickly as they can, and this vineyard is certified organic. Growers here say consumers want wines that reflect their lifestyle choices.
The farm-to-table movement in the United States really made people concerned about what they're eating and what they're putting into their bodies. And I think now it's also grown to encompass the wine that we're drinking as well.
Some of these grapes will end up in organic wines, while others are supplied by several natural wine producers. Natural wine is a production philosophy that favors as little intervention as possible, typically fermented with no added water, yeast, or flavor enhancers.
I think that the younger audience is very attracted by natural wine. I think that it's a different flavor. That there's been a movement towards lower alcohol, higher acid wines, wines that are more refreshing.
At Pax Wines, they've been making natural wine for over a decade.
Once the grapes come into the winery, we do very little to them. As you see, we step on them with our feet, and then they're picked up with the forklift and dumped into a tank with gravity. So no pumping, no mechanical crushing. Everything is done the way it's been done for hundreds of years.
Some natural winemakers add sulfites as a preservative, others don't. Some filter their wines, others leave them cloudy and full of sediment. The wines are typically earthy, savory, and less predictable than many of the alternatives churned out by big producers.
You're tasting something that is like this living product, and it feels like the most honest expression of what that grape was like in the vineyard. That's the exciting part about natural wine.
Unlike organic wine, which is certified by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, natural wine has no set standards in the U.S., and the lack of standards has given rise to some detractors who say natural wines aren't always worth the higher prices some can command.
I don't think that you're seeing a lot of consistency. I had a sparkling natural wine recently, and I had one bottle that was very flat, and then I bought another bottle and it was very effervescent. So I don't know, my bang for the buck was a little bit at a loss there.
Still, analysts say natural wine is currently the fastest growing segment of the U.S. wine industry. Total Wine says sales of it have more than tripled from a year ago.
Canadian geese are a common sight in Winnipeg, and a funny and heartwarming scene unfolded in the middle of a street. A man was trying to rescue a geese family off the busy street. Let's take a look.
Terrell Thomas, a motivational speaker and hip-hop artist, was driving along Main Street in Winnipeg with his girlfriend. They just so happened to see and film a man trying his utmost best to rescue a family of geese off the road. Thomas said that the guy had the bravest heart ever. He kept missing and almost gave up. But in the end, he picked up the babies and put them on the sidewalk. Thomas thinks that this is a good example of caring for nature. The funny and heartwarming scene that Thomas posted online quickly went viral with many millions of views. The kind rescuer is named Riley. Riley's proud mom said that her son has a really good heart and the bravery he displayed was amazing. Although few people remarked that Riley could be charged and people have been hurt doing what he did, the majority of the comments were giving Riley compliments for his kindness.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.